Whenever I'm shooting with my Canon M50, let's say 90% of the time I'm using it with this Canon 22mm f2. It's a great lens, one of my favorites, and it costs $250. Now, this is the Meike 25mm f1.8. Similar focal length, manual focus, $75. So if you find the 22mm too expensive, or if you're just looking for a cheap lens and you don't need autofocus, then at first glance this looks like a nice alternative, right? But is it? Okay, so Meike sent me this lens to try it out, test it out, and make a review video, but of course everything I say in this video is my personal opinion. Let's get right into it. Build quality. And I have to say, for a lens that costs $75, build quality is excellent. It's an all-metal design, it feels great, compared to the build quality of the Canon 22, which is also excellent by the way, but it's a mix of metal and plastic. I think the Meike, because it's all metal, feels even more durable and sturdy. Personally, I also love the look of the Meike, the metal ring, and the rest of the design. Looks a bit retro. That's not important, of course, when you're taking photos, but you know, I like it. And then there is the manual focusing ring and manual aperture ring. Both feel very smooth and precise. The barrel extends a little bit when focusing, but it's very minimal, and when it comes to size, it's pretty much identical to the Canon 22. Nice and compact. It's a bit heavier, but not much. Just like the Canon, it's a perfect walk-around lens. Now, the big difference, of course, is that the Meike is a manual focus lens, which means that there's no autofocus. Obviously, and you also have to set the aperture manually. But that's also why it's so cheap, you know? Now, all I can say about that is that if you absolutely need autofocus, then this is not the lens for you. Again, obviously, but I mean, it all depends. When I'm working, assignments, client work, I usually use autofocus lenses. But that doesn't mean that I rely on autofocus all the time. But, you know, you can switch at any moment, whenever you want. And manual focus lenses? Well, I like to use manual focus lenses when I'm not working. So, when I just want to go out for the day and shoot some photos for myself. And the great thing about a manual focus lens is that it's a different experience. It's slower and more relaxing somehow because you feel the process of making a photo and you feel the camera more, you know what I mean? And there's no switching back to autofocus because there is no autofocus. I really like that. It's a different experience, a unique way of shooting photos or video. Okay, but I'm deviating, just a little bit. Let's talk about image quality. That's the most important thing, right? It's an f1.8, so if you're a low light shooter or you want a nicely blurred out background, that's perfect. But it's not the sharpest lens in the drawer. No, it's not. Especially at those wider apertures. Now, is that a problem? It doesn't have to be. If you're looking for a razor-sharp low-light lens, so at wide apertures, then this is not it, but that doesn't mean that it's not usable. Not at all. For close-ups, it's also not too bad actually, especially for the price. It's a bit soft at 1.8, but definitely usable, and once you get at f2.8, 4, 5.6, it looks fine. But then the wider shots, when your subject is at a distance of 5, 10, 20 meters, well, how do I say this? It gets a bit quirky, especially again at those wider apertures. Corner sharpness is not great, and the weird thing is that, for example here, I focused on the tree back there, and these plants here in the foreground, they're out of focus, but this part of the garage here is at the same distance from the lens, and it looks in focus. And here also, I focused around here, I think, this distance, and this part here at the edge is in focus, it looks like. Then in the middle, it looks a bit softer, and then here at the corner, it's in focus again. What? I don't know what to say. How does that work? Well, the only thing I can say is that it's quirky. It does this weird thing where some parts are in focus that should be out of focus, and vice versa, like almost randomly. I don't know. I'm baffled, flabbergasted. I don't know what to say. It does get better when you stop down to well, let's say around f4, f5.6. But you know, when you buy a 1.8, you want to use it at f1.8. So image quality at f4, 5.6 is fine, but at 1.8, it's quirky. Now, that being said, it all depends, of course, on what you want to use this lens for. For client work, for architecture, you know, if you want everything razor sharp, this is not it. But I actually do like the quirkiness of it, because it makes your photos look a bit more vintagey, more retro, you know, like old photos, you know what I mean? And if you then also edit your photos in a more vintagey retro style or black and white and add some grain, then it actually looks really nice. And the bokeh is also beautiful, by the way. And the same for video, same quirkiness. But yeah, so conclusion, it's very cheap, and I guess in a way you get what you pay for. Build quality is excellent. Image quality, quirky. I don't know how else to describe it, really. So I guess it all depends on what you're looking for. I definitely see myself using this lens on a day off, you know, when I want to go out, take some photos for myself, walking around. I like it. You know, for those snapshot type photos, a bit more vintage style. Let's say it has charm. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, share it, you know, do all those things. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.